Dishing Out Karma by Nightwolf14292. Read by Rouge Monty. Rating: General Audiences. Archive warning: no archive warnings apply. Category: General. Fandoms: DCU Comics, DCU, Batman, all media types. Relationships: Tim Drake and Dick Grayson and Jason Todd and Bruce Wayne and Damian Wayne. Tim Drake and Dick Grayson and Jason Todd and Damian Wayne. Tim Drake and Dick Grayson and Alfred Pennyworth and Jason Todd and Bruce Wayne and Damian Wayne. Tim Drake and Bruce Wayne. Tim Drake and Dick Grayson. Tim Drake and Jason Todd. Tim Drake and Damian Wayne. Tim Drake and Rogues Gallery. Characters: Tim Drake, Bruce Wayne, Damian Wayne, Jason Todd, Dick Grayson, Barbara Gordon, Alfred Pennyworth, Connor Kent, Rogues Gallery. Additional tags: comedy, funny, Bat Family, protective Bat Family shenanigans, Jason Todd is a Bat Family member, caring Bat Family centric, Tim Drake centric, stalker Tim Drake, very subtly implied Tim Con. Summary. Oh, and if any of my usual rogues come looking for me while I'm gone, don't worry about it. In which Tim posts a bunch of his villains' embarrassing moments online, leaving his family to deal with them all while he is gone on his space vacation. Inspired by a Tumblr post. Author's notes. This is inspired by a Tumblr post by @CHIYANA! I know a few other people have already wrote this, but I want to try my hand at it too, because I've been trying to get better at writing. Also, I know Stephanie was mentioned in the original post, but I didn't include her because I don't know enough about her yet to characterize her correctly. I plan to learn more about her in the future. Smiley face. Guys, Tim started drawing the attention of the others. He shifted up the Batcave couch, tucking his phone away in his pocket and resting his hands on his lap. I've been talking with Young Justice. We're all planning to take a rocket up to a base for a while, a few weeks maybe, to deal with some space missions. I told him we'd leave tomorrow morning. There was an obnoxious squeak as Bruce swiveled around in his chair, turning away from whatever he was doing on the Bat computer to face Tim. He frowned, brows pinching together, as his paranoid mind filled with all kinds of ideas about how this could go wrong. Tim, you can't just decide to go on a space mission. What about your duties at Wade Enterprises? What about if the public asks where you are? Or what if... Tim decided to cut Bruce off before he could go into some kind of concerned lecture, putting his hands up to silence his father. Don't worry about that. This isn't a spontaneous decision. I already went ahead and dealt with all my responsibilities. The press is taken care of. My CEO duties have been handed off onto someone trusted. I'm all packed with everything I'll need, and I won't do anything stupid there, okay? I'll be fine, Dad. Bruce's frown softened. Maybe it was being called Dad, or maybe it was because Bruce had been making an effort to be slightly less overprotective, but he had backed off. He nodded slightly, breath coming out in a soft puff, and he slowly relaxed back into his chair. All right, just please tell me beforehand next time, okay? Tim got a somewhat smug smile on his face at that, and he could feel the dirty look Damian shot in his direction. He almost wanted to tease Damian about how he was still the baby of the family. He wasn't allowed to do things on his own, but he decided against it, not wanting to upset Bruce into making him stay home. Having gotten permission from his father, he pushed himself off the couch with a stretch. He hummed happily, and winding around the Batcave tech and the rocky fixtures sticking up out of the floor until he reached the exit. Just as he was about to go through the secret passage back into the manor, though, he paused in the doorway. A thought came to him, and with a devilish smirk that he only got when he had done something mischievous, he tilted his head back just enough to speak over his shoulder. Oh, and if any of my usual rogues come looking for me while I'm gone, don't worry about it. He spoke with clear amusement in his voice, and then quickly pushed his way out of the Batcave before anyone could ask him to elaborate. That was enough to get Jason to look up from his book, quirking an eyebrow and looking over towards Dick, who was doing the same. Bruce tensed up slightly, his parental instinct telling him that something was amiss. But Tim was quick, and at that point he had already grabbed his bags and bolted for the tower, where he'd stay the night with the team so they could leave early. The only way Bruce could stop him now was if he went all the way to the tower himself. Damien huffed, still annoyed by how easily his father had folded to Tim. He ran a hand through his hair, sitting down on the couch where Tim had just been with a pout. When he looked at the others' faces, he rolled his eyes. It was nothing but a manipulation tactic. Drake clearly just wanted to worry you, so you'd be thinking about him while he was gone. Tch, it's just like him to need that much reassurance, Damien grumbled, his arms crossed, and that he was slumped into the couch, making him look even more like a grumpy child. Still, Bruce relaxed slightly. He knew Tim, and he knew the boy loved finding new ways to worry him half to death. Tim probably didn't mean anything by it, Bruce thought, not having seen the smirk on the boy's face before he left. Surely it was just some teasing words, and Tim didn't actually mean anything by it. Right? The next morning was one like any other. Alfred had awoken early to cook some pancakes, eggs, and bacon, as well as a few plant-based sausages for Damien, and had set the table. One by one, everyone else had followed, Bruce and Dick brewing themselves some coffee, Jason awaking energized, as he always did since his dip in the pit, and Damien being grumpy, although he lightened up after he drank some chocolate milk. They had all dug into their breakfast, praising Alfred for his food, just like always. It was when Dick was in the middle of bringing his coffee to his lips that his phone went off. He paused, sitting the coffee mug back down on the table, as he went to fish his phone out of his pocket. It was a text from Barbara. "Did you know that your brother was doing this?" it read, with a video attachment. He could see from the thumbnail that it was Tim in what looked to be his Red Robin costume, and Dick's stomach automatically sank with worry. Doing what? Getting into trouble? Something dangerous? Being kidnapped? Tim was a master of getting himself into trouble, something Dick knew very well, and it wouldn't have been the first time he went off on a mission and got himself hurt, or didn't come back for months. Dick called the others over. He figured they would need to see it because he figured what they were about to watch was going to be something they'd have to intervene in. And so when Bruce, Jason, Damien, and even Alfred had gathered behind his chair, he pressed the play button. At first, everything was silent, uncomfortably so, as Tim stared down at his phone, and then he backed away from the camera. It was only when he had backed away that you could tell that he wasn't just wearing his Red Robin suit. He was wearing a tight catsuit in the same colors as his hero costume, with a pair of high heels to match, and then Tim, with the upper half of his face covered by his mask, gave the most evil grin they had ever seen, which was saying something. As My Kink is Karma started blasting through the phone speakers, the group gathered by the phone watched in some mix of surprise and disgust as Tim just lip-synced and danced to the song in a catsuit and high heels. It was distinctly uncomfortable for his family, having to sit there and watch the way he was feeling himself up and making bedroom eyes at the camera. Red Robin, one of Gotham's most well-known heroes, posting thirst traps on his official social medias. His moves were impressive, though, and he looked like he was having fun. It was probably got all his fans blushing. It was embarrassing to watch as his father, grandfather, and brothers. However, they didn't really have time to be embarrassed because that wasn't all. In the background of Tim's dancing and lip-syncing played video clips of the rogues he usually fought in embarrassing situations. Most of them of Raw's, him tripping and falling over, dyeing his graying hair black, his pants falling down mid-fight, him being glitter-bombed. Just clip after clip of him and several other villains Tim hated failing. The Bat family could do little more than just stare at the nearly 4-minute music video played out, Jason laughing his ass off in the background, despite there being some clips of him in the compilation too. When it finally ended, there was a moment where they just all stood there blankly, minus Jason, who was still cackling. Suddenly that comment Tim had made about his rogues coming looking for him made a lot of sense. And coming looking for him, they did. It wasn't long after the videos had been posted that the whole group of criminals just showed up in Gotham, all of them after Tim. In just a few days, the city was plunged into chaos of a group of villains turning it upside down looking for him while fighting each other because Tim was supposed to be their arch-nemesis. And they can't work together, these other losers. All of them were out for revenge, for having their embarrassing moments put out on the internet. It was nothing but a headache for Bruce, Dick, Jason, and Damien, who were forced to round all of them up. Dick is angry, the angriest he's been in a long while, that all these villains are trying to find and hurt his little brother. It makes the usually sympathetic hero so mad, in fact, that he had to be benched after the first 2 days, because he tried his best to rip Ross' throat out with his teeth. "He's basically immortal. It's not like it would have killed him," was what he had to say in response. Bruce was frankly mortified at the fact that he had to watch his son's thirst trap, and maybe that unpleasant memory of Tim feeling himself up and making flirty eyes with the camera made him a little more violent than he usually was while beating the hell out of these criminals. Damien was similarly mortified, though his was because of what he had seen of his grandfather and his mother. He couldn't even bear to look them in the face while fighting them. There were moments making him blush in embarrassment. He vowed to take revenge on Drake when he got home, from forcing him to see that. And Jason? He was having the time of his life. He thought the whole thing was hilarious, and he teased the rogues about it the whole time he was fighting them. The rogues tried to avoid him for the most part, because he laughed at them every chance he got, mocking them for their dumb failures, that they let Tim, of all people, get on camera. Meanwhile, in space... "That's hilarious," Khan wheezed. Head leaned against Tim's shoulders. The two of them were sat on the couch in the living area of the space base, watching television while the rest of the team made dinner in the kitchen. "I'm curious, though. How did you even get all these clips? There's, like, a lot of them," he questioned, looking up to meet Tim's gaze. Tim chuckled softly, brushing the hair out of his eyes. "Just a little bit of hacking their security cameras, sneaking into their houses, and watching through their windows," he said casually. Khan gave him a strange look, for a brief moment considering pointing out that just sounded like stalking. Instead, he just put his head back against Tim's shoulder, closing his eyes. "You scare me sometimes." He laughed with a fond smile on his lips. Reader's note, I hope you all give comments and kudos to the original author of this, Nightwolf. It is such a cute story, it's a fun story, and I hope you all enjoyed.